daleke Australije, zemlje koja je među prvima stavila pandemiju COVID-19 pod kontrolu, zemlje koja se smatra i jednom od najmodernijih, najdigitalizovanijih, dolaze nam u nastavku dr. Peta i Russell Tytler sa Deakin univerziteta. Naše govornice su napravili istraživanje budućnosti, ali u ovom istom istraživanju pobrojali 100 poslova budućnosti. Jedno je od najzanimljivijih izlaganja, vjerujte, koja će zanimanja biti na tržištu tražena, a danas još ne postoji. Naši gosti su svoje izlaganje pretočili u jedan video prezentaciju koju vam preporučujem u nastavku, a nakon toga ćete imati priliku da im postavite i pitanja nakon njihovog uključenja putem Zooma. Uživajte.
Greetings to all conference participants, and thanks to Sarajevo Unlimited for inviting us to share our research today. I'm Ruth Bridgstock, and I'd like to introduce my colleagues Russell Tytler and Peta. We're from Deakin and Swinburne universities in Australia. The research project that we're going to talk about today is 100 Jobs of the Future. It was funded by Ford Australia. The project starts with the premise that the world is changing, and so are the capabilities that young people and not so young people need in order to have successful lives and careers. What might the future of work look like? What skills will people need? How do we bring that knowledge from abstract idea to life for young people in concrete ways that will help them to navigate towards their futures? These are the key questions that we sought to address through the project. In today's presentation, Russell, Peta and I will talk you through the background to our project, the research design and evidence-informed methods that we use to come up with our 100 Jobs of the Future, and then share some of the details of the resulting jobs with you. We'll do a bit of a deeper dive into the capabilities that our research suggests will be needed in future work roles. And finally, we'll do a walk through the Jobs Explorer tool so you can identify which job of the future you'd like to do. It's designed for young people explicitly, but I think it'll be of interest to people of all ages and backgrounds. Okay, first some background and I guess the why of the research. I think we've all probably encountered commentary about change influences on the world of work, and the idea that work roles and the capabilities required for work are undergoing change. Even before the pandemic disrupted our work lives and moved many of us online, we were researching and looking at digital influences on jobs and careers. If you've heard the saying, the robots are coming for our jobs, this is about the influence of automation on work. The idea that some work tasks, particularly straightforward ones, will be able to be performed by robots and through digital means in the future. In fact, this is already occurring. Anyone who's who's used an automatic teller or even an Excel spreadsheet is experiencing automation of tasks that used to be done by human beings. The effects of automation are predicted to accelerate over coming years. But there are other digital change influences going on as well, beyond automation, ones that create work opportunities. These are things like big data, the Internet of Things, machine learning, the impact of digital networks and cloud computing. As examples from our recent past, the roles of social media marketer, so cybersecurity specialist, they didn't exist 15 years ago, nor did the job roles of influencer, cloud computing specialist or blockchain developer. But digital change influences aren't the only ones having an effect on work and work roles. There are social and environmental trends at play as well that are influencing the kinds of roles that are emerging and will emerge, as well as their location and the tasks that are required inside those roles. These social and environmental influences are combining with the digital and technological ones to create specific sub-opportunities, particularly in the care economy and the green economy. Research is giving us a reasonable idea of the potential work impacts of trend-based change influences. It's much harder to predict disruptive influences and their effects on work and the economy. So things like the effect of COVID-19 on remote and hybrid working arrangements, disruption of value chains, and so on, they're harder to predict. But the broader trends can give us quite a lot of intel about the kinds of roles that we're going to be engaging with in the future and the capabilities within those roles. How might specific changes to job roles and tasks manifest? What does this mean for the capabilities that people will need? And how do we translate that information to make it meaningful and useful for young people who are making decisions about what to study and which careers to embark upon? This is what our research project's about. Over to you, Russell.
Thanks, Ruth. And I'll talk a bit about the aims of the project and where it came from. Clearly, as Ruth said, there are major trends and a lot of research predicting what the future of work might be. And already we're seeing quite substantial changes in the way work is arranged, the sort of worlds that young people are going into now. And with these accelerating trends around technological innovation and advancement, for instance, or climate change, this is going to accelerate. Ford Australia commissioned this research. They have an innovation centre in close to Melbourne and are concerned to really work with youth to give them a sense of what the future might hold for work, because it's going to change. A lot of the people that worked for Ford in the past on factory lines, those jobs are now lost, many of them to automation. And so the idea was to create an image of the future that could be useful in predicting for youth what skills they might need to think about, what kind of capabilities, and so on. So the project had these two parts. Clearly, one of the first things we did was to go to the literature and identify the things that Ruth has already talked about, and to get a sense of what the future holds. What we did was, through that literature, identify major areas, if you like, that would be an important part of this advancement or this change. And from this review, an identification of key domains, we identified 11 experts from 11 domains that really were in a position to tell us what was likely to happen over the next 20, 30 years, and what the implications of that were for the world of work, and identify the key drivers. And then, drawing on that, we were to create a set of jobs. These are the experts. I won't go through each of them in turn, but I think a characteristic of the people we chose was that they were really people that were at the top, or is part of key institutions, if you like, that were driving these changes, and were in a really good position to tell us what the coming trends were. Out of these interviews, we identified a number of things. One was jobs that would appear in the future that don't yet appear, or are just starting to appear now. In some cases, these were directly referred to by these experts in the interview. In other cases, they talked about more general trends, out of which we could discern what sort of implications there were for work from that. And out of those descriptions, as we created these jobs, we were keen to develop a view about the skills that would be needed as a way of informing people. What does the future hold in terms of what skills are going to be valued? Okay, so there were three themes that, in terms of skills, that came out of those jobs or those interviews. One was the importance of cross-disciplinarity, people having deep knowledge in one area supplemented by wider knowledge across areas, or marrying disciplinary knowledge with knowledge of technology, which we all know we have to do these days, the meaning of data, interpretation of data, and so on. As one of our informants said, learn how to paint or code, learn how to paint. The marrying of disciplinary expertise with imagination and creative skills. Also interdisciplinary skill or interpersonal skills, working at the technology-human interface, interpreting human needs for particular configurations of of automation or interpreting automation for people, working in teams across that, and flexibility and adaptability and the capacity to learn is a lifelong endeavour. So out of those jobs, we created 100 jobs. We could have created 101, but we stopped at the nice round number. And here's an example. I'll just talk you through the way we created these. This is a cyborg psychologist. It really arises out of the fact that increasingly we're able to generate body parts that can be used as replacements for broken limbs or particular organs that are malfunctioning. And so increasingly we're able to really help people through this technological advances. And with that, and we see this now, that you get some adjustment period that people need to really take on board this new body part as part of their identity. And so a cyborg psychologist is a job that will appear, we predict, that helps people come to terms with how to deal with these body parts, and with that the skills that are needed are clearly a range. There's certainly people skills, knowledge of psychology, technical knowledge, and therapeutic techniques that could be used to address those. We broke down the jobs then into these three portions in each, and this one, to illustrate, we'll talk about the autonomous vehicle profile design in days where already we're seeing vehicles that are to some extent autonomous, and moving towards a situation where we may have completely autonomous vehicles. That has implications for the design of cars. We will no longer need all of the appendages like steering wheels perhaps, or brakes if that's being done for us, and so a redesign, rethinking about what you actually need in a car as people are driven around, needs someone who can be aware of what these needs might be, and in terms of the skills that are needed, they will need clearly some imagination around design processes. They will need knowledge of materials. They will need knowledge of the human material interface, and they'll need a lot of digital skills around augmented reality designs. And so that, setting the context, the nature of the job, and then moving to the skills was the way we constructed these. One of the jobs I really like is the swarm artist here, someone who works with drones to create displays like fireworks. And the reason I'm showing you this is to raise the issue that we thought these were totally new jobs, but when we actually, having done the project and a couple of years since we created these jobs, we start to realise these jobs either appear or exist in some form or are already appearing. And here is the last year's Olympic opening ceremony with a swarm display, exactly as we predicted. So there.
Well done.
Ruth.
Okay, so once we constructed the job roles and generated their descriptions based on the interview findings, we did some further analysis to identify the key themes and the kinds of capabilities required in the future jobs. So the top finding that we had here, a very strong theme, was that 82 out of the 100 jobs required creativity of some kind. Here I'm talking about generic creativity skills rather than discipline-specific skills. So the use of imagination or original ideas to create something useful or valued for other people. So this very much, I think, reflects a deeper move, the reorganisation of value chains away from efficiency, manufacturing kinds of things, towards more of an innovation-based economy, and this has been happening for a few years now, where what's really valued is new ideas that are put into practice in some kind of way. But in terms of disciplinary skills, we also had a major trend around STEM backgrounds. And these were subclustered into engineering kinds of skills in terms of bioprinting, mechatronics, nanomedical, specific subdisciplines of engineering, science, so microbiology, terraforming, biofilm, entomicrobiotech, which is a very interesting interdisciplinary subdiscipline, and data roles. So those that are involved with the analysis of big data, of automation type data, forensic data sorts of capabilities, and of course the sophisticated types of programming such as quantum computer programming. There was also a subcluster of creative industries kinds of jobs. So particularly the creative services kinds of roles, as opposed to cultural production sorts of roles. And here I'm talking specifically about skill sets relating to design in different forms, autonomous vehicles that Russell's just talked about, 3D printing, gamification, augmented reality, and also marketing. So personalised marketing kinds of roles. There was a subgroup there which was around content creation and the arts, but it was less dominant and apparent than the creative services kinds of roles. And the other thing to say in all of this is that linking with what Russell's just said, there were strong interdisciplinary elements throughout the majority, about 2/3 of the job roles that we generated. So whether or not this was interdisciplinarity in terms of the STEM disciplinary jobs, so I just gave you the example of the entomicrobiotech role, or between STEM and creative industries, or linking STEM or creative industries with specific types of disciplinary digital and machine type interface skills. Next one, yep. And so in terms of the technological skills, about 15 of the 100 job roles were actually about creating technological advances. So here I'm talking about sort of programming, designing new kinds of robots and so on. The majority of the roles here were actually around using technological advances to create other opportunities. So either as inputs into creative activities or as a means to distribute creative kinds of outputs. And these could be in terms of things like using the data from the Internet of Things, big data sources, cloud computing, in order to create something of value, or distributing those creative outputs through things like personalised marketing, food knowledge communication, and so on. Interestingly, there was one completely analogue role amongst the bunch. And this was about explicitly switching off from technology. Our analogue experience guide works with people to unplug from the digital life, reconnect with the natural world, themselves and other people, without implants and augmented reality. That's the one job out of the 100 without digital technology elements. In terms of other key generic skills that came out in the jobs, 97 out of 100 required social and emotional intelligence. So this idea that we need to understand the needs of others in order to solve problems, to persuade people of things, to sell or to market products, goods and services, and also to educate others. So it's very much still a theme, even though everything is digitally augmented and strengthened, about connecting with others in meaningful sorts of ways in these future jobs. And this is linked with the next key theme, which is about collaboration with others in order to engage with work. So working on joint projects, often with people who have different perspectives, who come from different kinds of disciplinary backgrounds, in order to create new kinds of And the other key thing that came out is that all of the jobs required organisational and project management capabilities. This idea that, in creating new solutions, in bringing products and services to other people, engaging to negotiate or to teach, we all need to have some level of organisational, project management or coordination kinds of capabilities to drive ideas through to fruition. So all of these, I think, have strong implications for the educational experiences we offer our young people and how we talk to them about their future careers. And we wanted to translate what we found meaningfully, specifically for young people, but also for others through our Jobs Explorer tool. And Peter's going to talk a little bit more about that. Peter.
Thanks, Ruth. So as you can tell, with 100 jobs, it is important to think about how might you navigate investigating all of these. So the Jobs Explorer tool was designed to facilitate that. Basically, it's a quiz that allows you to answer a few questions based on your interest and your skills and your choices in through various types of work to characterize the kind of work that you might be interested in. And then you can choose between different categories, in fact 18 categories of work. And it's that combination of choices that will then automatically pop up a selection of jobs for you to engage with. Perhaps those jobs are of interest to you, or perhaps you need to take the quiz again and find some other jobs that might engage you. But basically the Explorer tool is a way for you to engage with the 100 jobs in a meaningful way. And we felt that one of the most meaningful ways to organise the types of categories that you might be interested in, it was through the Riazek codes or the Holland codes. So these are 6 particular categories or profiles that reflect your interests and preferred ways of working. So if you grab your phone or device and come with us on a bit of a journey, let's explore this Explorer tool. So come to the 100jobsofthefuture.com website, find the spot where it says take the quiz, and then click on that purple button. The first question that comes to you is this one: order these statements from the most like you to the least like you. And you can click on each of these statements and drag them into the appropriate order. So this one is asking you things about what you enjoy doing, the types of tasks that give you pleasure and you think you might be interested in working in. So that's one kind of question. Once you click next, you then come to another question that has you ordering the things that you think you're good at. So it might be procedures, it might be working with people, it might be thinking logically. And then there's one more question that asks you to think about the occupations that you know about already that are of interest to you. So you might have the teacher or the biologist or even down to the mechanic. And again, you order these 6 options from the most like you to the least like you. At that point, you're then given your profile, which indicates that the jobs that you might be selecting are most likely in these categories. And there are 6 of these categories, the Riazek codes or the Holland codes, but only 2 of them come up, the 2 that are most reflective of your answers. If you want to know about the other 6 though, they are available on the website and you can click and read and see if your question answering actually reflects what you see in the details here. And then you come to the 4th question, and this is where you're asked to select an area of work, 2 of 18. As soon as you select 2, then the button to take you forward to see your results will show. So in this section, you select the areas that sound like they might be most interesting to you. And then your results will pop up, and you can start to engage with your results. If I was to show you one of my favourite ones, it might be the cricket farmer. This allows me to think about food security and how we might progress into the future. Of course, you can always find out more by exploring the website where the report is located and take some time to engage with the jobs and see what your future career might be like. If you're an educator and interested in supporting your young people to engage with the 100 jobs of the future, there are some strategies that we've provided for you to have a look at and to adapt to suit your particular context. So you can find these on the website, download them, and choose to adapt them as suits your needs. And over to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Peter. So our project was really about making tangible and to some extent accessible the future of work and careers for young people, but also for everybody. There are uncertainties around the future of work. People keep on talking about, jobs that haven't been invented yet. And what we've tried to do is create something that is more concrete so that young people have something to hold on to, navigate towards and be inspired by. The future of work is uncertain and that can be a little bit scary, but it can also be exciting. And we're hoping to empower everybody through this project to be able to move positively towards their futures.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, good day, everyone. First and foremost, I would just like shortly introduce myself. My name is Mia Bakal, and I am in the organizational team for Sarajevo Unlimited 2021. And I would like to take this moment to thank Dr. Peta White, Professor Russell Tytler, and Professor Ruth Bridgstock for their presentation. They are currently with us from Australia with the 11-hour time zone difference. And we are actually here because they wanted to have this live Q&A with us in order to actually share more information and to answer all the questions that our live and online audience has for them. Okay, so I have been informed that they are here right now. Okay, so hello, good evening.
Hi, Mia.
Hi, Mia.
Thank you for being
And
with us.
thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And as much as I know, we have a few questions from our live audience. So who has any questions? Okay, there's a few.
Hi, my name is Naida. My question is, what would be the 101st job of the future?
Oh, dear. I don't know. It took a lot of imagination to come up with those jobs. So you're asking us to think on our feet, you know. But actually, I think now that, sorry to introduce this note, but with the pandemic, there must be lots of jobs around health that people hadn't been front of their mind when we made those interviews. And so I would say we've seen lots of new jobs actually be created over these last 2 years. And that's the nature of, global technology and science and global situation. I don't know, Ruth is very good on describing jobs. Ruth, you must have some ideas.
I think I might be all tapped out on job ideas. What I would say is theme-wise, thinking of the 101st job of the future, it would be something about connecting with other people. So caring for others, communicating with others, collaborating with others. It would be something about making the most of technology to do that, whether that's designing something or marketing something or sharing something using technology. And there would be something in there about bringing new perspectives to whatever context that the person might be in. So there's this really strong theme in our research around the value of new ideas and new perspectives to bring people together. So I'm not quite sure what the specific job would be, but it would have those elements in it, I think.
Thank you very much. May I ask another question?
Yes.
My question is, do you think that developing creative skills is kind of a base for is base for adapting to the jobs of the future.
Ruth, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, okay. I think that there's overlap there. I think that the kinds of capabilities required to create new ideas can also be applied to create new scenarios and new possibilities for yourself in your own career. I suspect that in addition to creative thinking skills, in order to be adaptable in your career, you also need a self-regulation, emotional capabilities, to be able to look around and look ahead and see where the possibilities might be and what your potential futures might be. So it's a particular type of creativity that involves an emotional element as well as a cognitive element.
I think, Ruth, just to add to that, we've been doing increasingly, and partly I think as a result of this project, we've been looking in our work with science teachers and science education at the notion of creativity within science in schools. And I think there's a lot of interest internationally by OECD, for instance, about thinking about what creativity means within the STEM disciplines, as well as our kind of traditional way of thinking of it. So, I think it's an important question.
Thank you.
Maybe I would add too that I think the way we go about the future of work will be enacting our own creativity. So thinking about what kind of skills give us enjoyment, or that we're good at, or that they engage us, and then how do we package those skills together to produce a series of careers or tasks for us to undertake. I think there's probably going to be quite a bit of creativity in our own expression of our work practices.
I completely agree with you. When it comes to creativity, we are all creative in our own ways. Thank you very much for your answer.
Okay, do we have more questions? Okay, we have a few.
Hello, hope you hear me. My question is, what will happen with formal educational systems once these new jobs starts to pop up? Is the educational system going to be able to handle this? Okay.
I might have a go at that question. Yes, I think this is a big question, and I think a big driver, if you like, of interest in the future of work. What do you do in school and post-school education to prepare people for futures that we are only starting to imagine? And I think the answer has to be that you have to really think about the skills and not simply the disciplinary knowledge systems that have traditionally driven this. One of the reports from the Australian Scientific and Research Organisation on the future of work made the point that in Australia there were a lot of courses that were preparing students for jobs that were going to disappear within 5 or 10 years. And so we've really got to think carefully about that. And so that's part of the reason on our emphasis on flexibility, I think, and how to encourage within education to do that. I haven't answered your question of can it cope, but that's what it should be doing.
And maybe I would add there too that I think there are some educators out there who are doing an amazing job of bringing the skills and real future-focused experiences to their students. And if the system can allow it, they should be encouraged.
Thank you for your answer. We have a few more questions from the audience members.
Hello, I hope that you can hear me. Firstly,
yes.
thank you very much for the lecture. It was really interesting. The previous question perhaps was a good introduction to my question. So first I want just to give my comment and then to ask, like today we are speaking about jobs of the future, jobs which don't exist right now at the moment of speaking. And we and I, as a student, go to university, we are going to school and educate, learn things which are maybe 10 years, which were developed 10 years before, and we want to be employed in the future. So I want to ask you, what do you think, which kind of habits, day-to-day skills, day-to-day activities we need to develop, we need to have in our lives in order to be competitive in the 10 years in the future? Because as we said before, formal education system is not capable to accelerate and to bring innovation so quickly as the marketplace is developing, especially when you compare Western Balkans region to the developed world of USA, Canada, Australia. For example, even though when you think that, let's say, some basic things, iPhone comes on 1st October, you can buy it in USA, in Bosnia you can buy it maybe on 1st November. And some more incremental changes are lacking behind in this region. So I'm asking, what kind of habits, day-to-day skills and activities we need to involve in our lives to be competitive and to be ready to adapt to the jobs of future?
I'll have a go at that if you like. Yeah. Yes. So the first thing to say is that you're doing it. By attending this conference and by engaging in this kind of learning and asking these kinds of questions means that you are preparing yourself for your future. So you're setting yourself up well. The second thing to say is probably that formal education, I think, it will still be important. It won't be the whole answer, but it's an important foundation for the development of foundational knowledge and skills that we're going to need decades hence. So don't give up on formal education. It's a good foundation. That said, follow your curiosity. Follow what you're interested in. If there's a hobby, something that sparks your imagination, pursue that as well and keep pursuing it, because through that ongoing curiosity and interest in life and the world, that's where your vocation and your life path will emerge.
There's some interesting research even over the last 10, 15 years about this increasingly changeable kind of nature of careers that people train, but then they need to retrain. And what happens is that people need to think differently about their working lives. So instead of what traditionally had been the selection of a career and then get a job in an industry and stay there, that hasn't happened now for quite a while. And so people have to think of accumulating skills as they go. And as Ruth said, you've got to think about where your strengths are, but also where your interests are, and be flexible about that.
I think there was a quote that came from one of our informants about their thoughts about the future of work. They suggested you could learn how to code, but learn how to paint. So as Ruth said, find what interests you and explore it. And that's where the Jobs Explorer tool might be useful for you. Have a go at exploring the 100 jobs and focus in on the skills that are presented in those jobs that are of interest. And perhaps there's some useful suggestions in there for ways to continue to develop and build your career or various careers.
Thank you very much. I will definitely check the website and inform myself more about the jobs of the future.
Great.
Thank you. And we have time for just one more question because we're approaching another panel scheduled. Okay.
Hi, Ruth. Hi, Peta. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for this lovely presentation. I really enjoyed the part where you were talking about farming crickets. I'm looking forward to these. So I know there are now biomimicry institutes, so some of these jobs are already a reality. My question here is, do you plan to do a follow-up research for some of these jobs when they become a reality? Thank you.
That's a good question. What do you think, Russell?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it would be very interesting even now, because the basic interviews we did were about 4 years ago now. Even in that 4 years, there's been big changes, and so it would be interesting, as you suggest, I think, to do a regular sort of check on how the future has changed, because I think, as we said, these jobs are appearing now. In fact, shortly after we'd written these jobs, we discovered at least, well, we had some disagreements about whether these jobs actually existed or
were future
or not. So yes, it would be very interesting if we have time. Maybe we should go back and ask Forward if they're interested
in an update
to do that again.
A great idea.
Yeah, I would love to do it too.
Well, that's all the time that we have, and I would personally like to thank you, and I would like to thank you all for the time, the effort, and your contribution into making Sarajevo Unlimited 2021, the Forum on Innovation, so memorable, and for actually providing us with all this knowledge and engagement. Thank you, and I wish to formally welcome you to Sarajevo Unlimited 2021, to our family, to our story, and to our history. Thank you very much.